Yeah. Good morning and namaste, all of you. Today's topic is being discriminated or discriminated. This is going to be chapter 5, Shalok 18 and 19, chapter 6, Shalok 32, chapter 9, Shalok 29, and Karuna Chaudhary is going to read those in Sanskrit.
Okay, विद्या विनय संपन्ने ब्राह्मणे गविहस्तिनि सुमिचैव श्वपाके च पंडिताः समदर्शिनः इहैव तैर्जितः सर्गो येषां साम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्म तस्माद् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थिताः आत्मौपम्येन सर्वत्र समं पश्यति योऽर्जुन सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मतः समोऽहं सर्वभूतेषु न मे द्वेष्योऽस्ति न प्रियः ये भजन्तु तु मां भक्त्या मयि ते तेषु चाप्यहम्
Now, the English translation for these 4 verses are 518. The spiritual, a person who's truly learned with the eyes of the divine or the spiritual knowledge, they see with equal vision a Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, meaning outcast. The man living, who is the outcast? The man living in the cruel, distorted society, eating dog meat and drinking domestic liquor. And so, as long as the person who's really learned does bestow his vision with humbleness, then his vision will not be just a physical sight, but a much more deeper way of looking at things. In other words, those with divine knowledge see all living beings as souls, part of the Supreme, as the eternal soul, and he views that all with the equal eye. Now, verse 5.19. Those whose minds are established in equality of vision conquered the cycle of birth and death in this very life. They possess the flawless qualities of God, and therefore they are seated in the absolute truth. What it tries to say is that they have, those people have gone above the 3 gunas, sattvic, rajas, and tamasic, and they have established themselves wholeheartedly on God. And when they have this equal vision, they see sameness in everything. In a word, equality of vision is also explained as the rise beyond likes and dislikes, beyond happiness and misery, beyond pleasure and pain. So those who are able to do so transcend the worldly, materialistic Maya society, or in other words, the samsara of repeated birth and death. And therefore, they reach that level, the one where they are detached from the body and material desires, and web of Maya. So what happens? Once you get detached from the body and selfish bodily desires, those people, those learned people become equipoised, and so they are considered like God. Equanimity is the sign of self-realization. That person is ready to be liberated for conditioned life. Chapter 6, verse 32. What Karuna tried to tell us in Sanskrit was that Lord Krishna says, I regard them to be perfect yogis who see the true equality of all living beings and responds to the joys and sorrows of others as if they were their own, because they see God in them all. When you respond to the joys and sorrows of others as they were your own, it means you have developed the quality or the virtue of compassion, empathy, and understanding. Therefore, such yogis are always the well wishers of all souls and they strive for the eternal benefit of all. This then is called Samadarshan, meaning equality of vision, and he qualifies to be a perfect yogi. 929 verse says, I am equally disposed to all living beings. And this is God saying that I am just like you are trying to be equal to me. I am equally disposed to all living beings. I'm neither inimical nor partial to anyone. But he also admits that the devotees who worship me with love, they reside in me and I reside in them. And now this is a little deep when you try to visualize that devotees who worship me with love reside in me and I reside in them, which means you have reached the level of purity of mind and you believe that God is just. And though he is equal to all, but the law of karma decides how much grace God will bestow on you. And the law of karma means, if you are going to meditate more regularly, you're going to be in dharana or dhyan, and you reach a level of samadhi, obviously your level of contact with God is going to be more than those who are not yet there. So these people have already uh, earned uh, a lot of grace from God. And though it doesn't sound good, but in proportion to the karmas, the kind of karmas a person does, that is the amount of grace one receives from the providence. Uh, so this is the explanation of the 5 verses. And now we are going to go a little further into the understanding each verse. For example, in the 518, he says, the wise sages who have studied about Brahman, they see Brahman in everything, meaning that they see Brahman in the Atma of everyone. All that exists, whatever the name and form, may be made of the same substance, which is the Atma. Therefore, they love and they have compassion for all the creatures without distinction of high or low, caste or creed, and so on. Not only human with an equal eye, but they also see the Atma in all living creatures without any exception. So if you see a person staring at you for a long time, and you may wonder, what is he or she looking at? Do I have some wrinkles on my forehead that she's looking at? Or is she looking at my complexion or my hairdo or what? No, that person is looking within you. He is looking inside you. He's looking at your character. He's looking at your divinity. And so when somebody is lost in looking at you, don't worry. He's not looking at your physical self. He's try to connect with the Atma inside you. Um, Therefore, one who looks upon all these equally is a man of real knowledge. They see not only the bodily things, but they also see the mental plane and the spiritual plane or the atmic plane. So there is one which is called the physical level, and it's called the drishti. Second is mental level, which is manodrishti. And the third is the atmic level of outlook for and his intellectual power, and that is called Atma Drishti. All that exists is God. So what he's saying in you is the all-pervading God, the Atma. Hence, we can clarify and clearly say the learned person has equal vision, and this is knowledge, gyan. Knowledge leads to love for all, and once you have Atma Drishti, you develop cosmic consciousness, cosmic love, and unity. So that is the ladder which you are climbing. Now, as for verse 19 of chapter 5, Lord Krishna declares that the man who keeps his mind pure and balanced conquers the bondage of samsara. So, even when one is living in this body and looks like a regular human being, from within, he is free, he is emancipated. In other words, he is Jivan Mukt. If someone asks you, who is Jivan Mukt? What will you say? Say, is when a man is living in this body and looks like a regular person, but from within, he is connected with God. He is more in touch with the Atma, and so he is Jivan Mukt. He has achieved this by two outstanding attributes. And somebody will say, how does he become Jivan Mukt and not I? Well, he has worked very hard to make his mind very pure and enlightened. And his mind is established in equality, and he sees everything with equal vision. And if he's Jivan Mukt, eventually he's living in God, and he will get liberated and attain moksha. This is attained here now by the aspirant whose mind is free and balanced. So the reason I'm repeating this is because there are so many ways of explaining the same thing. There's so many similar words. So now we are saying this is attained through by the aspirant whose mind is free and balanced. Equal vision, balanced attitude, equal vision, always focused on God. So these are the few things we have to remember for the day of what we have learned, learning from chapter 5, 18 and 19. Okay. Now for chapter 6.32. Chapter 6 is mostly about meditation, as you all know, Atam Dhyan. But Lord Krishna, while concluding this chapter, emphasizes that one who sees himself in others and thus experiences the joys and sorrows becomes a yogi or a meditator of the highest caliber. He is experiencing others' joys and sorrows, meaning that the meditator puts himself in the other person's shoes. He experiences joy when others are happy, and he experiences sorrow when others feel sad. Yogi who has achieved perfection has a scripture-based effort. His sadhana receives the grace of God. He becomes one with God. Perfect yogi sees God in everyone. He develops empathy and understanding and can feel others' sorrow and joy. So pretty much this verse says the same thing which chapter 55, 80, and 19 are saying to us, but in a different way, where you try to put yourself in others' shoes, total empathy. Okay, now the the commentary a little bit on chapter 9, verse 29. Lord Krishna declares that God is the same to all beings. He hates none, nor is anyone being dear to him. God's grace is overflowing for all people. And then it also says, but not all people are the same to him. There are sattvic people, rajasic people, and tamasic people. So they catch God's grace accordingly. The Lord Krishna states clearly that he manifests himself in the heart of his devotees who worship with love and devotion. In a way, you may think he is being partial, but he says very clearly that I am for everyone, but you have to come forward to me to receive my grace. He says, I manifest in the heart of all the devotees, but more so in those who worship me with love and devotion. What he means by that is that he reveals himself in those who meditate on him with simple-minded devotion and with love. And they attain self-realization, liberation, moksha, whatever you want to say. And so, in a way, this is very natural that everybody has a reciprocal relationship. As devotees who surrender to God, God responds to them. Okay. Now, to go a little beyond all this, that very simply we have learned and digested that God is for everyone. We have to develop the equal vision. We have to be established in God, and God will be established in us. But he qualifies that by saying that it is in proportion to the effort you put in. Now, in everyday life, what happens? You have a problem, and you think God is going to solve it all. You know what we are studying in this these days is finding solutions for your problems in Bhagavad Gita. So we think, oh, I have a problem, the answer will be on page 19. No, it's not as simple as that. It's not like one of the games where you have a question and you punch number, the red color, and the answer will pop out. No, you have to work on it. All this knowledge, all this restraining of the senses, the yoga and the pranayam and the meditation, these are only the tools to make you more intelligent. And what God expects is that I am giving you all the tools to sharpen your own intelligence. Now use your intelligence using all these tools to find your own solution, because billion people have billion different problems and a combination of various other factors. So each one has to eventually find its own solution. But God and in Bhagavad Gita, God has given us every possible tool to solve our own problems. Now, chapter 1 to 18, he suggests that we should read it so often that we know our tools by heart. Okay, for this I can use the tool on page 70 or on chapter 6, page or verse 18. Boom, I can find the answer there. Just like when you're playing a card game, you have to know your rules. And the minute you have, every time the cards are dealt differently, but every time the certain cards come, your rules should tell you, boom, this is the way I'm going to play this game. Similarly, there are lots and lots of tools in these 18 chapters. We have to learn them by heart and be ready to apply them the day we want it. So it's very clear that we need to sharpen our intellect by reading Bhagavad Gita and all that Lord Krishna tells Arjuna indirectly to us, and then apply it based on our own processing. He says controlling the mind is key in problem solution. And so he says, okay, I'm telling you that you have to eventually solve your problem. So yeah, but the first thing you need to do is have a clean mind. Sometimes you're very confused, you're very busy, and somebody asks you a question, and even your child, if you're studying and he asks you a question, he says, I can't think right now. I'm busy in the kitchen. I'll sit down and I'll think and I'll tell you. So what is the first thing we need to do is to calm the restless mind, the turbulent, obstinate, and strong mind, and to subdue it. And once you have subdued your mind, you get detached from other things around you. You practice Karma Yoga, you practice Gyan Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, etc. And then you try to apply the knowledge you gained from Bhagavad Gita. And then, in the end, if you're not fully able to solve your problem, surrender yourself to God. Say, God, I've tried my best. I leave it to you. Have faith in God, and then expect that eventually your soul or your problem will be solved. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisance to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. It is said, trust in God. God's faithfulness will never fail you. He keeps his promise with immeasurable grace. He keeps his perfect yogis safe in the palm of his hand. You trust God, you see God, and like a little child, you surrender to him, and he'll put you in his palm and he'll take care of you like a delicate flower. And what will he bring to you? He'll bring you strength, he'll bring you peace. And all you have to do is try to continue being a perfect yogi, fully devoted to the Lord. So once you continue to love him with devotion in all circumstances, God will keep his promise, which is that he will never leave you, he will never forsake you. And give me a minute, please. Now, to go back to saying, oh yeah, you talked about uh, perfection of yoga. But how do I get this perfection of yoga? Well, that's where you have to have another curriculum and another subject to study, and that is yams and niyams. You don't get through your graduation without few essential subjects in your curriculum, right? So is the case in your graduating to be a perfect yogi. You have to practice yams and niyams, asanas, pratyahar, dhyan, dharana, pranayam, and eventually get into samadhi. And above all, do devotional service, do selfless service, and give ultimate peace to yourself. And once you reach that level, there's no way that you will not receive God's grace. Okay, now Bhagavad Gita, as you read again and again, as they say, you finish reading it once, read it again. If chapter 7 is your favorite chapter, read it again and again. If chapter 18 is your favorite chapter, underline everything that you need to do and read it again till you can almost quote things out of it at any time. Now, the Bhagavad Gita gives you tremendous insight on how to live a life, a fulfilling life, and how to navigate through the challenges and difficulties. It awakens your intelligence, which then will help you solve your problems. However, it may not give you specific solutions to every problem one might face in life, but Bhagavad Gita is knowledge that will help you deal with the problems of life, but only through having sharpened your own intelligence. So I repeated that point again for you. Now, uh, so once again, we repeat, how do we boost our intelligence? One, by regular study of scriptures and invoke the supreme intelligence, Krishna, whose presence manifests through sincere prayer and meditation, will help you with achieving that, because it is you are doing your part of the commitment to him and devoting yourself to him, and he will come to you, and he will come to you. And what does that require? Trust, faith. Now, uh, okay, then um, there is an elaboration that I would like to do on selfless action. Because when he says you um, you have to do your karma yoga, one of the key challenges in karma yoga is to do things without expecting any rewards. So first, you don't expect, oh, I must do this and tomorrow I'm going to get the grace. I've got 10 reward points and tomorrow I'm going to cash in on 9 reward points. No, you just have to do your work, hoping that one day the God's grace will be upon you. Even that you don't hope, you just expect it will happen. Trust. Therefore, selfless action is karam yoga that you have to do. Devotion and surrender is what you have to do for bhakti yoga. Dharma is that you may be in meditation and prayers and worship and chanting, but you still have to do your duty and be righteous, which is your dharma. And then you have to get detached through the control of your senses and mind, compassion and forgiveness. So, what are the things that you need to control in order to come to that level? If you're angry and you're upset, you can't focus on, uh, selfless work, or even in your prayers and chanting. There's something which will keep bugging you. So, God says, if nothing else, don't read all the scriptures in the world, but if you can control lust, which is calm, anger, which is krodh, greed, that is lobh, adultery or attachment or any such thing is moh, ego and pride is mad, which is the most demonic of all, and envy, which is matsarya, and any other negative characteristics, you have to try to overcome that. Those who dedicate their actions, abandoning all attachments, they will not be touched by these sins of lust, anger, greed, ego, envy, etc. Uh, and you will stay above like a lotus leaf in the untouched by waters. So, in order to even reach that, the Lord Krishna says, you have to have some regulative principles in life. No illicit sex life, or no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating, and do many rounds of jap. And so once you have dedicated yourself, the rest of the things will start to fall in place. So this is all that I have to say for these 4 verses. We can expand on this by applying this to our everyday life, by trusting in God leave the cruising level to him, because God's faithfulness will never fail. He will keep his promise. You only focus on what you are supposed to do, expecting nothing in return to start with. So I stop here and I ask you all to give your take on these verses. Should I start with Jyoti? Unmute.